It's the summer of 1965. In the small farming village of Valensole, tucked into the lavender country of southeastern France, a 41-year-old farmer named Maurice Masse tends his land much like his father did before him. He is known throughout the region as a straightforward, no-nonsense man, respected by his neighbors, trusted by local authorities. Not someone given to fantasy, but something has been bothering him. In the final days of June, Masse notices that small portions of his lavender plants have been disturbed. The damage is minor but persistent, irritating enough that he decides to investigate. He begins rising early, watching, waiting. On the morning of July 1st, 1965, at approximately 5:45 a.m., Maurice Masse stands beside his tractor near the edge of his lavender field. The air is still. The rows stretch endlessly in soft purple lines beneath the rising sun. And then, a sound. It was a sharp, whistling noise cutting through the silence. Masse steps forward, expecting perhaps an aircraft. What he sees instead stops him cold. Roughly 90 feet away, resting on the ground, is an object. It was egg-shaped and smooth. It stands slightly elevated above the earth, supported by a central structure and landing supports pressed into the soil beneath it. And beside it, there were two figures that were small and humanoid, less than 4 feet tall. They appeared to be crouched near the plants, moving deliberately as if examining or interacting with the lavender. Masse's first instinct was anger. He begins walking toward them. As he gets closer, within roughly 15 feet, he sees them clearly. They had large heads, pale skin, and unusual eyes. He said at first they looked like babies. The beings make low, indistinct sounds to one another. Then, one of them turns, raises a small object, points it directly at him, and in that instant, Masse cannot move. His body locks in place completely. He remains conscious and aware, standing upright in his own field, unable to act. He would later report that in those moments, some form of communication was had, though he never really explained what it was. The beings moved quickly. They returned into their craft, and he could see some form of controls inside of the spaceship. Then the hatch closed. It rose swiftly about 1 meter and then quickly vanished. And it took him about 15 minutes to actually regain control of his own body. Shaken, Masse hesitates to speak. He confides first in a small circle, only family and a friend. Word spreads due to his friend's indiscretion. Within a day, local authorities are alerted. The French Gendarmerie arrives and an investigation begins. At the site, they find physical traces, impressions in the ground consistent with where the object had rested, disturbances in the soil. Something had been there. Masse later reports unusual fatigue in the days following the encounter, periods of deep exhaustion that he could not explain. The case draws attention. Scientists, investigators, among them Jacques Vallée, a respected researcher who would later become one of the most influential figures in UFO studies. After speaking with Masse, Vallée and others come to a quiet conclusion. The man is sincere, but perhaps not telling everything. Masse himself remains reserved and careful, at times even reluctant to elaborate. According to later accounts, he came to view the experience in deeply personal, maybe even spiritual terms. And of the beings themselves, he offers only a simple reflection. They did not harm him.